families today. Okay, so a few more facts about families today in the United States. This stuff too is based on survey data and survey research. Okay, so American family is changing. It's changing fast. Some people hate it. You know the direction it's going. Some people think it's okay. Some people don't care, right? Okay. Only 7% of families in the United States fit that older model of the 1950s nuclear family. So today, and we saw this last time with social class and the income brackets, and the fact that half of our jobs pay less than $33,000 a year means that dual career families are now not just the norm, but they're more and more necessary just to survive, right? It's just the reality now. It's very difficult to survive on one income, whether it's coming from the husband or the wife today. So dual career families are more and more the norm. Okay, so that old model, breadwinner father, children dependent on the father, it's changing real fast. Typical families, here too, the marriage rate has declined since 1960. Just the overall number of people getting married. Yeah, sure. Yeah, so just 2 points. The old model's gone, only 7%, but the clear minority fit this typical father brings home the money, mother takes care of children at home, and then again, 2 incomes are necessary today. Okay, typical families. Once again, the marriage rate overall has declined. Fewer people are getting married in comparison to the 60s. Point 2, the divorce rate has gone up. That is clear. Interestingly, it's come down a little bit from the 70s when it really skyrocketed for a while. It hit like a peak, but it's still much higher than it was in the 60s and 50s. Point 3, the birth rate has come down. Now this varies by ethnicity and cultural groups in the United States, but overall the birth rate has come down in the United States. Other parts of the world it's come down significantly. We'll look at those numbers in our section on population. So birth rates come down. Okay. Set here, next set of facts about families. Wait for a second. Okay. Okay, so we're good? Alright. So, facts about families. Marriage. When you ask people in the United States, is marriage important? Do you want to be married? Most people still say yes. We could look at the exact percentage there, but most people still uphold the ideal of the family as an institution. So that's kind of interesting. The reality, though, does not fit the ideal. Fewer people are getting married. Our 2 articles are going to dig into this too. I think these are really good articles we'll talk about later because I think they're very accurate and very on top of the times and consistent, probably with some of our own experiences. Definitely consistent with my experience working in jobs with low-income folks who are by and large single mothers, repeatedly over and over, not married, never married, multiple husbands or multiple fathers, and single mothers. Okay, so fewer people get married. We said that. People are postponing marriage. For the people who do get married, it's gone up and up and up. I think it's somewhere around like 26 or 28 now, the marriage age. It used to be much lower. I'm sure our grandparents, if you ask them when they were married, or your great-grandparents, my grandparents were married by 18 years old was normal. So it's gone up and up. Cohabitation is an emergent family form, that too. I remember when I was a kid even, I was one of my older brothers, and he was living with his girlfriend, and that was kind of taboo. I guess it still kind of is. But it's less and less. It's okay to live with, people who are the opposite sex, and whether you're in a relationship or not. So cohabitation is an emergent form too. Okay, and then over 40% of recent marriages in the United States are likely to end in divorce, which is, that's huge percentage in comparison to times past too. So that's another one of these maybe surprising facts about families, but you guys are ahead of times too, so you know that. Okay, so just basic facts. Again, fits with your expectations probably of what's going on. Okay, why divorce? There's some different factors that researchers look at here, and some trends emerge here too. One is that income matters here again, and when you lose income, and there are money problems, we know this, again, personal experience, I'm sure, increases the risk of divorce, so money matters. Also, people talk about the shift, now that women have a bit more independence, economic independence, maybe more marriage independence too, the ability to leave a marriage that's bad, right? So maybe that's a good thing, maybe that's a positive of this changing picture. So maybe it's not all negative. Some people suggest that people have higher expectations of marriage now today, and the whole idea of marriage has changed, and it's okay to go get married, and then like have it be over in 6 months, and the whole pop culture, Kim Kardashian, thing. So maybe that's true. I don't know. It's hard to know what's going on in people's heads, right? Expectations, higher, lower, maybe. And then, of course, this seems to be true also, but it's going to vary by family. But certainly decreased legal restraints on divorce. It used to be harder to get a divorce. Irreconcilable differences was a blanket term, but it used to be harder to get divorced legally. In some cases there'd be religious counseling through your church or what have you. So decreased constraints against divorce. People argue too. Okay, one more set of facts about divorce here. Get that up there, that's good, right? So, barriers to divorce. People talk about at least 3 factors when people are asked, why not divorce? Why haven't you been divorced? Consistently, the answers are probably going to fit expectations. Children is one, that's a major one that people respond with. Religion is important too in families. Religion's one that's cited oftentimes. And then this one's interesting too because it's kind of a reversal of the point earlier, but not necessarily here, that if there is a lack of money, in some cases there's no option to leave the marriage. It's just better to stay, to keep the incomes there. So that's a factor that people list too as a barrier to divorce. So lack of financial resources or ability to leave the marriage. Okay, so now we can turn to gender roles and dig into some of this material, some of these ideas. We're just doing a kind of a general overview here, and then we'll get to some short video clips, and we'll dig into our articles here too in class assignment. Okay, so gender roles. Historically, people talk about how in times past, Western industrialized societies had a much clearer division of the gender roles. Some people argue, if we're going to get technical, that early industrial societies have more opportunities for women, and then it changes, or at least it did in our history. You could look at China, for example, and lots of women work in the factories there. Early America's women worked in factories too for a time, but by 1950s, there was a clear division of gender roles, even before that, really. A clear division of so-called instrumental roles, functional roles, money, breadwinning, and so on, and expressive roles, caregiving, nurturing, domestic skills, all of those things. So 2 different sets of roles, men, women. Some people cite the Second World War as playing a role here. and some of the changes that it brought. And so an icon like this is, anybody know what that is? It's
Rosie the Riveter.
Yep, who symbolizes what? Symbolizes doing riveting, which is hard physical work, right? So women were taking the jobs that men had exclusively during the war, right? Before World War II, these were considered to be men's jobs only. Women could not do these jobs, right? The idea goes. All the men leave, and these jobs are filled by women. Women, people find out, can do them, too. And so some people argue that's one of the turning points. Of course, the 1960s, women's lib, but way before that, and so on, of course, World War II. All right, so nature versus nurture with gender roles. One view here on gender roles is based on so-called biological determinism. Of course, men and women are different, biologically. That's not the issue. The issue is, can women, work in riveting? Or can women be upper managers or CEOs? So we're talking about the roles themselves, not the, physical strength and all that stuff, privilege debates and all that jazz. But the roles people do, the things people do in society. So, from the view of biological determinism, the roles are predetermined. There are men's roles and women's roles, and it's good to keep them separate. Again, based on biology, or it's just natural. Another view argues that, of course, biology matters, but societies and cultures create gender roles. There's no biological rule that says women can't be managers or upper managers or CEOs or whatever, presidents, etc. Okay, so two different views here. We're going to see these different views played out, I think, in our video clips a little bit. Maybe. All right, gender socialization. Here, too, we could spend a lot more time digging into this and getting into this in more detail. Just trying to do an overview. Gender socialization refers to learning the expectations of the genders. And so this is kind of, interesting stuff. And we can think of sources of socialization, how we're socialized, how it varies by culture, how it varies within cultures, maybe within families, all these interesting things about how we become socialized. Again, some people are going to say it's just in our biology, right? You're just born who you are, and that's who you're going to be. And if you've got kids, some are just, they act certain ways, right, as soon as they do, and so there's different views here. But certainly, the example of the color pink is an interesting one, because, is there something biological about the color pink that would suggest it being, so-called feminine color? I don't know. Maybe not. Is it okay for guys to wear pink? I guess it's always been okay. Like in the 80s, guys wore pink and stuff. Today, it's guys wear pink more maybe. But anyway, as soon as you have a baby, and you're home from the hospital, what do you do typically? Typically, yeah. And there's a story of someone, I forgot who did it, but so this is talking about breaking norms and stuff. But I remember it was a story in one of the books we were using, and he purposely dressed his boy in pink colors, and when someone would see the little baby, they'd say, "Oh, what a nice girl," and then he'd say, "No, it's a boy," and he would try to do it to, just to get that reaction, and then, imagine dressing vice versa, making boys wear dresses, or I don't know. Obviously that's all here in socialization. So peers, how do they socialize? Schools, how do schools socialize kids right away? Or maybe for better, maybe for worse. Get into some touchy things here. But schools and any examples from your experiences in school? Okay.
I know that there's expectations for kids when they go into kindergarten and stuff, because my nephew is high above the expectation rate, and I know that there's they put certain kids in certain classes because they have a higher IQ or smarter or not such a high IQ or
Yeah. Right. Right, that's one. Yeah, that's a good example. Yeah.
I think from the get-go, girls are expected to just play with girls and, I don't know, do different things on the playground.
many boys played Foursquare in playground? And did you guys even have that game? Okay, so you did. So maybe it was, maybe, okay, that's fine, it's a bad example. How about...
Pretty sure everyone plays Foursquare.
Yeah, okay.
I was gonna say it could be like how there's some all boys and all girls schools.
Yeah, that's a good example. Definitely.
I was gonna say all boys, not girls sports, like cheerleading is just a girls sport.
Yeah, it's true. True too. It's a good example. Of course, there's been huge changes your generation with sports, girls sports, and girls sports gotten better and better. All the sports, incredibly competitive, right? Volleyball, and of course all the sports. Anyway, yeah. So we get the idea there. Schools, popular culture. We can get into that. Okay. So that brings us to this question. Are there different opportunities for men and women today? Contentious debate. Back to the arguments about biology in certain areas, and we could talk about certain jobs, right? Anyway, gender institutions. Are some institutions based on a separation of genders, and should they be? Maybe that's a question too. Some people think yes, they should be, and that's right. Some people have different views. So it brings us back to this question of inequality. Is it an inequality, or is it a choice that we all make here, and who we are and what we like, and maybe have nothing to do with socialization. That's an argument that's out there too. So historically, I think it was you guys can see it was maybe more clear cut. We'll look at an example here too historically in just a second. Okay, so inequality or free choice. Gender inequality in education. Here, historically, again, I don't know. Was it inequality? There were clearly differences, especially more separate schools, by gender. But does that mean different opportunities? Today, there's this example of differences in majors that people talk about. And there's been the issue of women in science still today. And so that's kind of a contentious topic here too, and I want to look at a short video, it's like 2 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes, that gets into this question. And it's a few years old, it's from 2005, when the former president of Harvard, Larry Summers, who's been in the news for other reasons lately, was at a conference, or he was giving a talk, and someone asked him why there weren't more women science majors at Harvard, and his response was more characteristic of biology. He thought, we should explore differences in brains and so on, and I'll let the video explain.
One week and 3 apologies later, the debate over Lawrence Summers' remarks hasn't died down.
Ordering a chicken salad wrap and a Larry Summers to go!
At Mr. Bartley's, where there's a burger named for Harvard's president, the topic is on every table.
You're a senior.
Yes, I'm going to apply math, concentrator with chemistry.
Molly Welch wants to know why she's had only one female professor in her 4 years at this school. But she acknowledges female math majors are rare.
It actually is kind of aggravating to me because, I've been in a math course with, out of 20 students, only 3 girls, and it's just really discouraging.
It's not just Harvard. According to the nonprofit American Association of University Professors, women make up more than half of all graduate students at U.S. universities and colleges, but only a little more than a third of faculty. And among full professors, only 23% are women. Carol Muller started a mentoring organization along with Sally Rye. She was the first American woman in space and has a PhD in physics. The two wanted to encourage young women interested in science and engineering. Muller blames the lack of social support and stereotypes as the main barriers holding women back.
I think it's very clear that there are many, many social factors that impact the participation of women in science and engineering. And those are things we can work on and that we can change.
Still, others argue different explanations like genetics have to be explored. And right now, they're taboo.
As soon as you study them, you're called a sexist. and they're screaming and yelling, and you have to back down and apologize for even asking the question.
But asking the question has sparked debate and forced change at the nation's oldest university. Today, Harvard President Summers called for a new program to recruit more women. Kelly Coviella, CBS News, Cambridge.
So, I don't know, in our experiences, have there been differences in, obviously ask about engineering classes or math? Social science is a little bit different, people always usually tell me. But, I don't know, maybe your experiences reflect that, maybe they don't. But typically math, my experiences as a student in philosophy, at the graduate level at least, there was I think one or two girls, women. So that's, again, maybe that's a choice. Mathematics, I don't know. Your guys' experiences, feel free to yeah, okay.
Well, like from the numbers of like PR majors and hospitality majors, it's like, I don't know, I took a PR class and it was like 4 guys in it and 26 girls. So it's the exact opposite.
Okay.
Different majors.
Okay, good point.
Yeah, I'm a chemistry major in a lot of my physics classes, and like some of my chemistry labs, I've been the only girl or one of 2 girls
Really?
in a lot of my classes.
Really? Huh. Interesting. So maybe there's a philosophy there. Okay.
I know a girl in one of my other classes that's a criminal justice major, and she's like an extreme minority in that major.
Okay. Criminal
Guys and girls.
criminal justice. Okay, that's another one. Yeah. Okay. So good examples. Let's pick it up here again. Let's see. Okay, employment. Here's some classic numbers that people give when it comes to gender and some of the changes that are taking place. The next 2 clips will talk about some of the changes. Short video clips here too. But 60 years ago, only about 25% women worked within the labor force in the U.S. So only about a quarter of women worked outside of the home. That's 60 years ago, about 1 generation. Today, again, the vast majority of women, 70%, work within the labor force, in some capacity. Also, another one of these figures that people talk about, people still talk about it because it still exists, is the pay gap. Now, we're talking about just looking at incomes, not per job, but just overall incomes. So these kinds of numbers, again, are traceable through tax records. And in 1975, women's incomes to men's in the U.S., women earned about 60% of what men earned overall. 2005, women earn about 77% of what men earn. Again, overall incomes, not per job comparisons. What's the reason or reasons for the gap? Well, people talk about the fact that women still predominantly work in the so-called secondary job market. We talked about that as being based on more of service jobs, higher turnover, fewer benefits, low pay. Again, we're back to typical service jobs being like retail, some other industries, some health fields, higher levels, but also lower levels there too. So secondary job market, which pays less, fewer benefits, etc. Okay, so that brings us now to our short video clips here, and quick introduction. Okay, good here. So, now the question is the economy and gender roles. Our first article, will get into that. Actually, we'll both get into the question of economy and gender roles. And the videos will ask this question here too. As the economy changes, are gender roles changing? So why is that an interesting question? Well, it's interesting from the systems view because it would suggest the two might be related. So we'll think about it here and watch the clips and see what they think.
We're going to begin a look at how the recession is changing families across America. Statistics show more men are losing their jobs in this recession than women. That can turn traditional gender roles upside down. More than 5 million jobs in all have been lost, 78% of them held by men. Some people have dubbed this the he-cession, as manufacturing, finance, and other male-dominated fields shed jobs. Dan Harris has part 1 of our series, The New Gender Rules.
On the day Larry Brush got laid off from his finance job, he and his wife Sherry watched Meet the Parents, where Ben Stiller plays a male nurse.
You know, Greg's in medicine too, Larry.
Oh, really? What field? Nursing.
You know what? I love it. I'm into it. I'll do it.
After being laid off 3 times in 8 years, Larry is counting on nursing, where there's a severe worker shortage, as the source of a steady gig.
He's taking a lot of ribbing from the guys in the neighborhood, I will tell you. They're calling him Larry Poppins.
And you don't care when you hear that?
A job is a job. I don't care about, there's nothing, female, male, it doesn't matter. It's work.
When Chuck Hammond lost his technology job, he decided to become a stay-at-home dad while his wife Debbie runs her successful marketing firm.
My dad kind of gave me that arched eyebrow. And there's definitely like old school thought process on staying at home and being a male where you're supposed to be the provider and everything.
With this recession creating much higher unemployment rates among men than women, many couples are now engaged in wrenching renegotiations over gender roles. There are studies that show that when a man is laid off, he takes it harder than a woman does.
Absolutely, and I think even the most liberated feminist man still feels that his identity is threatened when he loses his job.
Women struggle as well. Eleanor Hemmert is not happy about being the main breadwinner after her husband Rick lost his job.
I don't like coming home and seeing him in my apron. I wish I could say something different, but I've lost so much respect for him. Okay, I gotta get back to work.
Larry Brush and his wife seem to be taking the changes in stride. They think that this recession, while painful, could accelerate positive change. So in some ways, you're on the vanguard.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. We're at the forefront.
And we also
the gender switch.
There's mommy.
Even when it's over, this recession could leave an indelible mark on gender roles in America. Dan Harris, ABC News, New York.
And we're interested in knowing how the recession has changed roles and responsibilities in your household, if it... We have a look at how changing times and the changing economy are redefining attitudes about work for men and women. A new study finds a shift in traditional roles among 20-somethings, the so-called millennials. For the first time, more men than women are expressing concern about balancing work and family. So Betsy Stark has part 2 of our series, The New Gender Rules.
32-year-old Eric Adams worries he should be doing more to advance his career and more to take care of his family.
It's a balancing act, and it's very difficult.
33-year-old Amy Adams takes for granted that Eric's ambitions won't stand in the way of hers.
Feeling fulfilled in that professional setting is very important to my happiness.
Women every bit as ambitious as men, and men who worry work is keeping them from home. For many young Americans, traditional gender roles have all but disappeared. Men have become nurturers as well as providers. Women have become providers as well as nurturers.
There is a coming together of the roles that I think was almost unthinkable in the past.
Behind this quiet revolution is a dramatic demographic shift. In 1975, 47% of women with children under 18 worked outside the home. Now, 71% do. What's more, 1 in 4 women now earn significantly more than their husbands.
Hey!
As their economic roles have merged, their gender roles have melted away. Just ask 5-year-old Jackson Adams.
Who makes dinner in your house, usually?
My dad and my mom.
Who does the dishes in your house?
My mom and my dad.
Who gives you a bath?
They do it every night.
All right.
We heard from many young families about this growing partnership. Viviana Russell told us her husband is at home right now cleaning.
Can you imagine it being another way?
I cannot imagine it being another way in terms of a mother working outside the house that also has to keep up with all the domestic duties. I think that would just be nearly impossible.
Many of the women who've done it would surely agree. Betsy Stark, ABC News, Canton, Georgia.
Okay, so for tonight, to finish class, we've got another assignment here based on 2 articles we read for tonight. So I'd like us to do this one in groups. We don't have to number off or anything, but just as long as we're all in a group, if that's okay, we can group up with neighbors. Keep groups under 6 or so. And let's do this. How about if we divide? Well, let's just keep it. Oops, that's the wrong one. Let's just keep it simple. So 3 ideas from both articles, and you can go through the articles and just pull out the ideas that you think are most interesting, or the ones that you like, and then just list them. So 3 ideas from both articles.